Invisible Cities is a book I can't get out of my head. Published in 1972, Italo Calvino's postmodern masterpiece is a collection of 55 unforgettable, impossible cities. It is evocative and poetic, and somehow, confidently, my favorite book of all time. But you know what's better than a meditation on memory and desire? That's right, a ranked list. Forget the metaphors and poetry, I know what the people want, and it's spreadsheets. Invisible Cities is framed as Marco Polo telling Kublai Khan about the many cities of his vast empire. And while Polo is poetic and eloquent, he forgets the most important thing: the property values. To help my friend Marco out, I've built him a Kublai Khan zestimate, evaluating every single one of Calvino's cities across 4 categories. Those categories are: amenities. Does the city have markets and theater and culture? Or is it an endless colorless suburb, like in Apopka, Florida backrooms? Walkability. Are there streets, or do you have to climb several miles of ladders just to get to the Hilton Garden Inn? Safety. Is there a plague of rats hiding just under the town square? Or, alternatively, is the city an active construction site, placing cranes on top of cranes like a demented Jenga? And finally, the Calvino bonus star. Basically, how much would I like to live in the city? What, you want to argue about the fairness of bonus stars? Get out of here, we got so many pages to get through. I gave each city a score of 1 to 10 in each category. We'll go through every thematic group before presenting the overall scores. And before you get upset about turning magical and ambiguous prose into a cold spreadsheet, Invisible Cities itself is built on a rigid mathematical formula. Its 11 thematic groups repeating like a clockwork spiral. I don't know if that will stop Calvino from turning in his grave, but did what I can. Without further ado, let's flatten some metaphors with our first category. Zyra is a bad start, and kind of illustrates the problem of having to actually live in a metaphorical city. It's a city that contains its entire history in scratches and marks, like the lines of a palm. Unfortunately, there's also abandoned children, and hanging usurpers, and a gunboat laying siege to the city. And that kind of thing really drives the zestimate down. Marilia invites travelers to view the city as it is, and then view an old postcard of how it used to be. Unfortunately, there's a very thin line of etiquette you have to walk, and pointing out to the locals about how places can fundamentally change but still have the same name really makes them angry. I'm not sure how Zillow ranks culture shock, but it's probably not great. Zora is so meticulously laid out that when you close your eyes at night, you can walk its streets through your memory. And I have more than enough trouble falling asleep as is. Isadora contains everything you could apparently ever desire in a city, from bloody gambling fights to a surprise third choice between 2 women. The only problem is, by the time you actually arrive, you're old, with nothing to do but sit in the town square with the other old men. Desires have become memories. But on the plus side, finally a chance to hang out with the bros, where they can't dodge your messages. Alex, I know you're free. Buy Peak, it's $8. I know you're free, Alex. And finally, Diomira, a city full of beauties you've technically seen before, but never quite like this. It's a place where you can feel like the only person in the world who's ever been this content, this happy, this loved. What could possibly ruin something so sublime? Easy. Lead pollution. Zobody is a trap. Men from across the world had an identical dream of chasing a naked woman through an unknown city. When they all failed to catch her, they set out to turn that dream into reality, building a city of walls and nets so that if the woman ever returned, she would have no chance to escape. Guys, just no. Anastasia has great amenities, from beautifully seared pheasant to naked women chasing you in baths, which is a weird motif in this book. We'll just make a counter. The only problem is that while you view the luxuries of the city from afar, you work like a dog in its underbelly, pining for just a grasp of its wealth. We live in a capitalist society. I don't want to live in a capitalist metaphor. Despina appears either as a camel or a boat, depending on how you approach it. Camels are cool. Boats are also cool. Fedora contains a museum of marbles showing every way the city could have evolved, from a minaret slide to a street built for elephants. On the one hand, knowing your city could have had an awesome elephant street is a little upsetting. On the other, I love museums. Finally, Dorothea is the best of both worlds. It's meticulously, geometrically laid out. Great, we love urban planning, while somehow leaving room for the joy of experience and discovery. It's a city defined as much by careful organization as it is by the half-remembered daydream of a young camel rider. Pretty good. Unfortunately, the next 34 cities are scored lower than Dorothea. Oh boy. Zoe is a city with no distinguishing features, no way to tell one building's function from another, a place of what Calvino calls indivisible existence. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the indivisible existence tag on Zillow. Olivia is a place of prosperity and squalor, where palaces with peacocks perch on top of battered, bruised workers. And wait a minute, this is just Dubai. I don't want to live in Dubai. Zerma repeats itself, a daredevil balancing on a skyscraper's ledge, a blind man crying out, a girl walking a puma on a leash. These moments repeating over and over, the same images circling back until the city has enough weight to exist. It's a wonderful meditation on repetition and memory. It is also a lot of pumas. Tamara explains itself entirely in symbols. The tankard means tavern, the halberds mean barracks, signs tell you what's forbidden, fishing apparently, and what's allowed, like cremating your relatives on the front lawn. Even the buildings that have no signs, like the prison or palace, are explained through their location and architecture. Unfortunately, they haven't updated Google Maps yet for ephemeral symbols, so maybe give them some time. Hypatia gives you nothing you expect and everything you don't. Where Marco Polo looks into a canal and expects naked women bathing, you get crabs instead. Where you expect a palace, convicts. Where you expect a library, a smoking child. And, in the playground, a philosopher. In the cemetery, musicians. Hypatia demands you give up what you expect from a city, what you want from a city, and give in to its idiosyncrasies, which makes it very annoying for a ranking system. Armilla is nothing but plumbing. Pipes running to taps, showerheads, spouts, overflows, standing there with no ceilings or floors. Gaze into the city and you'll see slender women bathing in the open pipework. Polo reckons they're nymphs, either invading a human settlement or politely accepting an offering. Either way, I saw the Odyssey, and if there's one takeaway from that movie, it's that nymphs are bad news. Okay, there's a lot of takeaways. If there's like 10 takeaways, Octavia is bound between two mountains, suspended over the void by a thin net. The life of those in Octavia is less uncertain than in other cities, for they know the net will last only so long. No, Isaura is built above a buried lake, and people can't agree on whether the gods live in the lake itself or in the buckets that haul the water up, and religious schisms rarely end well. Zenobia is a city built entirely on stilts, bad for walkability. Sophronia is two half-cities stitched together. One side is factories and a slaughterhouse, grim industrial machinery as far as the eye can see. The other is a roller coaster, a Ferris wheel, a carousel. Periodically, the industrial half packs up and moves on, and the carnival citizens just wait around for it to come back. And as someone who partly grew up in Orlando, this is just Orlando in the theme park off-season. And the off-season's the best time to go to the parks. You can go on MIB, you can go on Velocicoaster, you can not go on ET because your mom took you on it when you were way too young. He's still pretty freaky, and you've honestly always held the belief that they should make an Alien Isolation game with ET because he's already a great creature design, and if he jumped down and went boo, it'd be terrifying. And this is a great idea. Ursilia is made of relationships, strings stretched corner to corner across the city. marking love, hatred, blood, all of it. You know those insane relationship diagrams from Xenoblade or Guilty Gear or any of the JRPGs I'll never play? Just think of that when the strings are too numerous to pass through. The houses are dismantled, the people leave, and the strings hang alone, mourning in the wind. Relationships seeking a physical form. Esmeralda is a city of zigzags, where cats, thieves, and lovers move like acrobats. Rats and smugglers run the sewer routes below, and a commuter takes a new path to work every single day. Taking a new path to work every single day? I didn't know Italo had ridden the Chicago bus system. Utopia is a logistical nightmare. When its citizens get sick of their own lives, they swap cities and identities, relocating on an empty chessboard of husks waiting to be inhabited. It's a city that never stops changing, and one that, out of all the cities in the Empire, remains exactly the same. Chloe might be the city that best illustrates the limits of this whole exercise. It's a place of locked eyes and silent fantasies, where strangers imagine entire relationships in the space of a glance, but never act on a single one of them. If they were to act on these ethereal dreams, the whole carousel of fantasies would stop. It might be my single favorite city in the entire book, a perfect example of what makes Calvino's prose so compelling. How do you rank a city of such ephemeral longing? I don't know, man. They're cheetahs? It's probably not safe. And lastly, Euphemia, a city where goods and stories get traded in equal measure. Your cashews become nutmeg, your sister becomes someone else, your memory becomes someone else's, all changing hands alongside the wine and the fire. How many more of these? Valdrada is built on a lake, its reflection a twin that mirrors every motion. This is just having an annoying sibling. Baucis is another stilt city, which means it's facing a $75,000 fine for the first ADA violation and up to $150,000 for everyone after that. By contrast, Zemrud scores great on walkability. People move through the streets whistling, eyes drifting up past curtains and fountains, taking it all in. Unfortunately, that same gaze eventually drops, down to the drain pipes, down into the cellars, pure dreariness lurking underneath. Let's see here. I gave Don't Look Up 2 stars on Letterboxd, so 2 stars for Zemrud. Phyllis impresses at first glance with fancy attractions and architecture, and then quickly reveals itself to be just a collection of destinations, with nothing but traffic and boredom in between. This, too, is Orlando. Moriana is paper thin. One side is coral and glass, gleaming immaculate. The other is splintering planks, rusted sheet metal, and exposed spikes. Great city, get your tetanus shot. Aglara is made of old proverbs and virtues, no longer relevant, but held onto like a ratty shirt. Clarice cycles through boom and bust, splendor collapsing into plague, plague scavenged by survivors, ruins rebuilt over and over. It seems pretty good now, but you gotta love thrifting. Irene is only ever viewed from a distance, never actually entered. Pura is different than Polo imagines, but otherwise seems fine enough. And Leandra is even cute. It's home to 2 tiny species of gods, the Penates that move with families, and the Lares that stay with the homes. The 2 species bicker and argue, and you could read it as a meditation on whether the soul of a city is in the people that come or the houses that endure. Or you could read it as the last scene of Ratatouille. Argia is filled entirely with dirt. Hurts the walkability, I'll tell you that. Adelma is a city where every stranger you pass wears the face of someone you've known who's died. Polo realizes he's reached the point in his life where his dead friends now outnumber the living. He decides Adelma must be the place where, at the very end of everything, you finally sit face to face with everyone you've ever lost. And he thinks, this means the beyond is not happy. Man, Calvino really goes for the existential terror in these ones. Oh, great, it's Laodomia. Laodomia contains 3 cities. The city of the living, the city of the dead, and the city of the unborn. The living are constricted by these doppelgangers. The dead place their silent judgment, while the unborn present two options. Either their numbers vastly outstrip everyone who's ever lived or died, and the city is crushed under invisible multiplying hordes stretching their necks out just to breathe, or the city is dwindling. And one day, the last citizen of Laudomia will be born, the final grain of an hourglass, dropping into the pit below a red sky. Eusapia has a perfect copy of itself underground, built for the dead. And because the dead keep performing the jobs they held in life, the two cities have started to blur into one continuous place. Italo, you would have loved Resident Evil Requiem. Finally, Melania, no, not that one, is a performance. Soldiers shout, fathers bicker, servants scurry. Decades later, the same dialogue plays out again, with new actors slotted in to old rows. Time brings change, but too slowly to tell, being as we are but one scene in a very long act. Beersheba, a city which, only when it shits, is not miserly, calculating, greedy. Yep. Perinthia was built exactly to the star's specifications, so it could be blessed by their favor and their whims. Instead, it became a city of deformity, children born with 3 heads or 6 legs, howling from the cellars where they're kept hidden. The astronomers now have 2 options: admit they got the math wrong, or conclude that the order of the gods is exactly reflected in the city of monsters. Italo, I cut you some slack with Melania. You're not fooling anyone here. We've all played Bloodborne. Most of us have played Bloodborne. I have not played Bloodborne. Thekla is in constant construction. Cranes on top of cranes, scaffolding on scaffolding, built to reach and mimic the stars. It's a beautiful passage. It's also plainly unsafe. I could not find the OSHA section on plain crane Jenga, but once I do, I'm coming for you, Thekla. Eudocia has a magic carpet whose pattern perfectly mirrors the city's chaotic layout, and maybe the layout of the universe itself. Look, we got our full existentialism quota after the Dead Cities, we're skipping this one. And finally, Andria, also built in accordance with the stars, but a good version this time. It's a city where people look to the universe and marvel at its change, and look to each other and are awed by the same. It's a beautiful sentiment, and I could easily spend 30 more minutes talking about it. Oh boy, these are all miserable, so we're gonna go quick. Procopia contains an inn Polo stays at every visit. The first visit, he looks out the window and sees a single face staring back. He returns a year later. Now there are 3. The faces keep multiplying, living off corn and blackberries, packed shoulder to shoulder outside his window. Inside, 26 Polos are lodged in the room with him, waiting and writing and talking over each other. On the plus side, Polo likes talking to himself, and is apparently very polite. On the negative, this is clearly an upcoming A24 horror movie. Leonia throws out way too much trash, doesn't recycle, and takes pride in the growing mountain of garbage that threatens to crush the city like a pesky ant. Penthesilea is nothing but outskirts, drudgery after drudgery after drudgery. The suburbs. Cecilia is identical and endless. The suburbs, but there's a goat grazing on a traffic island. And Trude, a city that spans the entire world in exact identical fashion, with no beginning and no end. You know, I think Italo might have not liked the suburb. In Risa, life is not happy. Uh-oh, Italo. Risa is a city of misery. People wring their hands as they walk the streets, curse their stubbed toes, slam dishes and doors. And yet, people laugh, cook, fall in love. And every second, the unhappy city contains a happy city unaware of its own existence. I've written more than enough about the fetishization of melancholy elsewhere, but Risa says it more concisely than I could have dreamed. Still, 17 out of 40. Theodora is a city waging permanent war on nature, exterminating every serpent, spider, and fly it can find. It's only once the last pest is gone that the other fauna reclaim their place. The griffins and dragons and harpies and hydras dancing across the spires and minarets. This one could go a lot of ways. If it's a peach dragon situation, great. It's more of a King Sorrow one. This one's going low. Berenice is a city of justice and injustice, germinating inside each other like a nested spiral. Marozia is two cities, one of the rat and one of the swallow. For years it was ruled by gnawing and violence, teeth tearing leftovers apart in the dark. Then it became a city of flight, buoyant, hopeful, prosperous. But walking Marozia's walls now, you sense a kind of mold creeping back in. The old violence waiting to return the moment the city gets complacent, gliding weightless through the air. I've written plenty about mold before, so instead, I'll say this. Swallows are sick. They live along the Chicago lakefront, and watching them swoop between air and nest is endlessly entertaining. You can even sometimes see little fledglings peeking their heads out. It's adorable. And if you want me to make another video rambling about birds for 30 minutes, you can Venmo me at 40. Finally, after so many cities, we arrive at Olinda, a place no bigger than the head of a pin, yet spawning ring after ring of walls and people and growth, all folded into that same tiny point, infinite compressed into thin pages. Like a book. So, what did we learn? Well, it's not great living in a metaphor. Here are the mean and standard deviation for each category. I'm not sure what statistical meaning you're going to get out of this, but I know people would be annoyed if I didn't present it. You may notice that the Italo bonus star has by far the highest standard deviation. Does this mean that my own personal biases influence the ranking? Yes, obviously. What other takeaway are you going to get from this? Our top three cities were Dorothea, the city of many possibilities, Andria, the good space city, aka Yarnum on a nice summer afternoon, and finally Diomira, perhaps the only unambiguously optimistic city in the whole novel. So that's what you learned. What did I learn from this whole exercise? This was the first time I've reread Invisible Cities since I started making videos. Thumbing through this old copy, filled with annotations, I realized how much it's influenced the kind of topics I like to write about. Throughout this video, I've included asides to previous videos I've made, partially because the algorithm loves that, but also as recognition that many of the topics I've spent many more words elaborating on appeared here first. I'm not saying that reading Calvino led to a video on Resident Evil Requiem, but the same ideas appear in both. The same ideas of mold and decay, of fetishizing melancholy, of strange and wonderful museums. Hell, I made a video about how to properly represent the vividness and idiosyncrasies of cities. What is this book other than that? Studying these cities closely felt like finding the wellspring of my own ideas. Perhaps the most famous section of the novel is an exchange between Polo and Kublai, where Kublai asks Polo to finally speak of his hometown, Venice. Polo says, "What do you think I've been talking about the whole time? Every time I describe a city, I am saying something about Venice." Kublai is unmoved. He tells Polo that when he wants to hear about other cities, tell him about other cities. When he wants to hear about Venice, tell him about Venice. Polo says, "To distinguish the other city's qualities, I must speak of a first city that remains implicit. For me, it is Venice." Venice only appears 8 times in the book's text, but it is clear how much Polo loves it. Every word he says, every city he describes, it's a part of his heart. I hope that when you watch this video, or any of my other videos, you can see this book is part of my heart. This was such a long video. It's cold. I thought it would still be hot.